Hi, welcome to the Knit Now Guide to Magic Loop. My name's Kate, I'm the editor of Knit Now magazine.
And I'm Debbie and I'm your resident expert for today's tutorial.
We've already done a video on the basics of using circular needles, so if you need a primer, go check that out first. But today we're going to have a little look at using the magic loop technique, which is genuinely magic and much easier than you think it is. And the point of magic loop really is to take a circular needle that you think is too long for the piece of work you're doing. So for example, if you're doing a little cardigan and you want to use circulars to knit the sleeves, but you don't have circulars that are only that circumference, you can use 80 centimetre circulars to knit that little tube. So we have, well, I say we, Debbie has already cast on some stitches, so we can go over to her to take a closer look at those and get started.
Okay, well thank you very much, Kate. So as Kate mentioned, you can see here we've got quite a long loop and we've only got 40 stitches. So even if I was to spread these out really far, no way are they going all the way around the needles. So we need to work out a way that we can still knit with these. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by pulling the stitches through onto our cord. Excuse my springy cord here.
Should I hold that one?
Go on, thank you very much. And then we're going to split the stitches in the middle.
So this only needs to be really roughly in half because it doesn't actually have any impact on the finished look of the piece as to where you've pulled your loops out, but roughly in the middle is fine. If you've got an uneven number of stitches, it's fine if you've got 21 on one side and 20 on the other. Don't worry too much about it. But we're going bang in the middle here between the 20th and the 21st stitch.
We are indeed. Okay, so when we've got into the middle here, we can see that's our central section. I'm going to just pinch that in half. Now, there's no really prescribed way for doing this. Do it however works best for you. Can you see there that I'm pulling this through here, bring my needles up, and then I'm going to do the same on this second needle here.
So you're pulling that whole loop out and you're ending up with 2 halves of stitches on each needle tip.
Okay, you can see that there. Okay, now here's our working yarn and we want to be knitting from our working yarn, so we're going to take these stitches at the back, pull that through, so we've got, can you see the loop here that I've got here, and I'm going to take our working yarn, make sure it's over the loop, push the stitches on the front needle there up to the tip, and then begin to knit.
So you've pulled out that back needle and you're using that as you would use any right-hand needle.
You can see that there. So this is over the top, going into that front stitch there, and going to start knitting. Okay, and pull that nice and close so that you don't get a baggy edge.
But if you do handily, that's where your cast on end is. So if you need to just sew that up at the end, you can do. But best just to pull tight at the beginning. Keep it nice and neat. So now Debbie's knitting all the way across these stitches on the front needle. Any of you that are used to working on DPNs, this will look quite familiar. It's just normal knitting really. And again, as we talked about in the circular knitting video, if you are knitting every round, you get stocking stitch, you don't need to purl. So that's always a nice little bonus. So we're nearly at the end of that first needle now. Just a few more stitches.
Okay, and at the end there. Okay, so you can see we've still got our 2 loops, one at either end. You can see those there, and we've got our 2 sets of knitted stitches, and we're going to turn clockwise. Move that working yarn out of the way, and as with all circular knitting, just make sure that you haven't got any twists in here. Okay.
So you just turned it round and then you're ready to pull the cord out and go the other way.
That's not right. No, it's not. It's not. It's gone the wrong way.
This is a common thing that happens a lot. What you've got is you're inside out. So push yourself the other way in.
So if you find yourself with the working yarn on this side, on the front, just turn yourself inside out and check you're not twisted. Okay, and get started again. Yeah. I'm going to shuffle my stitches back along the cord to here. You can do this in either order, it doesn't particularly matter whether you could take the back ones out first. Then put the working yarn at the back, so that needle comes off here. This creates our second loop, and we can then carry on. Again, make sure that your yarn is over your cord, so it's over the cord there, and we're going to carry on knitting our second half of our stitches. Again, nice and tight pull there just to make sure you don't get any laddering. And keep knitting.
And then just carry on repeating that, really, isn't it?
It is indeed.
So, and as with anything, you can pop a stitch marker in at any point in this. I find it easier to keep track of my start of rounds in magic loop actually than in normal circular knitting, because you've got 2 defined points. So the worst that happens is that you think that your end of round is halfway through compared to where it is. But you can always pop a stitch marker on one end of your cord to keep track of where your start of round is. How are we coming along?
And just
nearly finished.
Just
down there.
The last one.
Let's take a closer look there.
Okay, so this is my last stitch now on my second half, and can you see there where this has gone a little bit loose, and this is what we'll pick up when we weave the tail in at the end. So don't panic if that happens to you. It's it can be fixed later on. The main thing is just to make sure that you've not got any twists in your work. Yeah. Okay.
And then just carry on going. You turn it over, you pull one needle out, you push one in, and you carry on. So I can show you a little bit that I did earlier. So this is a few more stitches than Debbie was working on, but if I pass that under, we can take a little closer look.
Okay.
So I've done a few rounds there. So you can see that the work has started to grow. You're getting a tube of a stocking stitch from knitting every round. And at the edges, because I've been pulling nice and tight at those, we've not got a ladder coming through, so you don't really notice. So when I was saying before about it doesn't really matter if you've got an uneven number of stitches where you split, as you can see it doesn't make any difference to the look of the finished piece, so that's all good. So I think that's us for Magic Loop.
I think it is, and I think what you'll notice is that it's much more simple than you anticipated.
It's a much shorter video than the general circular knitting video.
It is, isn't it?
Because it's actually much easier than you think it is.
Exactly.
One final thing to say about Magic Loop is actually if your work is only slightly too small for your circular needles, you only need to pull out one loop. You can pull that out at any point in your work. Particularly useful for your crown decreases on a hat. When it just starts to get a little bit tight, just pull out one loop until you've got enough to pull out two.
I'm going to call that my bunny ears. Because you've only got one bunny ear. Sorry.
All right, well, I think that's us done, and we will see you next time.
Thank you very much. See you now.